summer of 2019, I went to Midwest PPG in central Indiana to complete a week of paramotor training, otherwise known as powered paragliding or PPG. And ever since I attended that flight school, more than 2 years ago, I longed to get my butt back in the clouds. But the unfortunate thing about the sport is that it's not free. And although it's not as expensive as, say, buying an airplane, it will require about the same amount of funds as it would take to purchase a brand new motorcycle, for the motor and the wing and any other safety equipment you need. So that's why, since my time at PPG, I had yet to get back in the air. It took me this long of saving so I could acquire the funds to purchase the equipment I need so I can fly again. So back in April of this year, I finally acquired all the money I needed to start buying equipment, so I reached back out to Dave at Midwest PPG and asked them for their advice and what they recommend I get. Because they're my dealer, they are who I trust, and we all know how fast and rapidly technology changes. So I reached back out to them to get their advice on what the best equipment of the day is. Now, at the time of my training, air conception was all the rage, but Parajet Maverick is where it's at now. With a 185cc Vitarazi Moster motor, a convenient way of breaking down the cage, and a really comfortable harness, as well as major improvements to all the components, especially the exhaust system, where you would typically find a lot of your problems and your leaks and what have you. All that sets this motor apart. And as far as the wing, I decided to go with a Spider 3, and of course I had to do custom colors because I like pretty things. Again, I ordered this stuff in April, and they told me that it would take 6 weeks to get the motor and 90 days or 3 months to get the wing. So at this point, it was confirmed, and I decided at that time to give all you guys a heads up on the big surprise that was coming. And I used the allotted time between the arrival of my equipment to upgrade my old stuff. During my previous training at Midwest PPG, I came to realize that my audio equipment through my helmet that I installed was pretty far from perfect. In fact, I pretty much had zero communication with the GoPro on my helmet because the connection was just too loose. So I decided to take my helmet apart, and I heavily upgraded all the wiring and components that ran through it and installed them in a more secure manner. And this was actually the first time I ever soldered anything, at least successfully. That way I can do both commentary with my GoPro while I'm flying, as well as take phone calls or talk on the ATC. And then about a week ahead of schedule, despite the pandemic part shortages going on, a surprise arrived. June 1st, the day has finally arrived. Behind me, you see a package I have waited about 5 weeks for, which is awesome because I was expecting it at like 6 weeks. So, bully for me. But what is it? Well, let's unbox it and find out together. There it is, the Parajet Maverick Sport. Oh yeah, my ride to the skies. She is beautiful. Yeah, I got the black edition, which means that basically I just got a black cage that goes around the prop. Here's my seat. Let's unhook these little convenient, they're stretchy, I like it. They go right into the seat. Oh, my harness. This is where I go, or any pilot for that matter. Oh, beautiful. Smells like new plane. So the Maverick here is built by Parajet, they're an English company, but the engine is by Vitarazi. All right, this is a Moster 185, which produces about 25 horsepower, which is more than enough to get somebody my size, I weigh about 210, throttling through the clouds, okay? I ordered the 4.5 gallon or 17 liter tank. It comes standard with a 10 liter tank. Now I got the dual start, which means I can do it manually with the pull, kind of like when you start your lawnmower, or I can also go electric and just push a button on my throttle and that will start it up, or at least it should start it up automatically. The harness is Cordura. It's like famous for being really, really comfortable. It's like a bucket seat. You just fit snugly right in there. It has the offset bars or hang points, so it kind of adjusts for that torque. All right, besides my motor, the other things I currently have for my PPG gear is, I have my Reserve Angel chute, okay? Obviously a reserve chute, bro, is supposed to save your lives in times of need, in desperate need of survival, okay? So it's very cool. I love chutes, bro. And then I also bought this, it's actually a toolbox. but I use it to keep my personal PPG, like protective equipment and cameras and stuff. Like, got my altimeter, barometer, watch, whatever. I haven't really messed around with it much yet, but I will. Okay, some camera equipment, some audio equipment, glasses, my helmet, stuff I'll need to go flying with confidence. Okay, so I just installed my reserve chute onto my motor frame. So this is it right here on my right hand side, because my throttle right here will be in my left. So I won't have my right hand free. So the way it works is the parachute, the reserve chute, as I showed you earlier, was already packed. So all I had to do is put the packed chute into the D bag. Okay, so actually I would call this the container. The D bag was what the chute came in, the orange thing that you saw. So the way it works is this red handle is actually attached to the orange D bag inside. And when you pull on it hard, it's just Velcroed on. I love this stuff, man. I love the deployment mechanisms of parachutes. This is so much fun to me. So when you pull on this, it rips out these, this like PVC pipe kind of thing, and it releases these loops, okay? And that deploys these flaps. It opens them up and allows you to take out that D bag, and you'll be holding that D bag by this handle up, and it'll just be a packed parachute you're holding in your hand, and then you just chuck it, and it will inflate. And these are the riser lines, or just the lines that run up that I had installed onto the frame itself, onto the seat, the back of the seat here. They run up. This is just Velcroed in, so it's out of the way. And then they each run up into the two shoulder straps here. And there you go. You can see that they're just carabined in and on each shoulder strap. Okay, so that's how that works. I would have showed you guys the whole packing process, but I really wanted to focus to make sure I did it right. So after I got my motor put together and, read the instructions, got it all figured out, and installed my reserve chute as well as a tachometer for convenience sake, I had to wait another month and a half for my wing to arrive, but it did. And of course, when I get my Christmas presents in July, I want to open them now. So I took it outside and gave it a spin, just to make sure it works. It definitely wasn't because I was impatient and wanted to play with it. So I got all my equipment. It took a couple months and it made for a long summer of waiting, but I did get it. And so my brother and I, who was my cameraman, took another road trip to Midwest PPG to reunite with the staff. And when we arrived, Dave, the owner, was there to greet us. He was super excited for me and couldn't wait to get me back up in the air, so he helped me refamiliarize myself with the sport and learn everything I could about my engine, whether it was putting it together, fueling it, and priming it. And even got me set up so I could break in the motor in a more convenient method than I was going to use, which would have been 2 hours of me standing there with this engine on my back. Instead, he let me put it on the sled. And it felt really good to have that power between my fingers again. Hold on to your butts, Brad. About that time, Dave had to leave, but Brad arrived on site to come play with us a little bit. And, of course, sometimes he played with himself too, but that's understandable. Riding with the Brads.
Yeah.
Brad sandwich. But then he helped me get refamiliar with kiting a wing. It actually wasn't too bad. It was like riding a bike. It all came to me pretty quickly. I'll chalk that up to the good training I had 2 years ago.
Oh, just the fact that he got it that well on the first try is pretty good.
And I must have been making it look too easy, because then Brad, my Brad, cameraman Brad, wanted to give it a try as well. He actually did pretty good for a first timer. Hey, not terrible. Ready? Take two, whenever you're ready. Bring your arms up. Keep going backwards. There you go. Keep going. If they're getting over you, pull both brakes. All right, there you go. So kiting felt good and went great. Next came putting the motor on my back for some lean backs and just getting refamiliar with that throttle control. So up until this time, everything was going great, better than expected. So now we were just debating whether or not we'd go up this evening and actually do a flight. If you remember back to my documentary a couple years ago with my PPG training, it was all nice weather leading up to that training week. And then once our week started, it was nothing but rain. We were a wet class, probably the wettest in history. Well, go figure. Leading up to this day, when I was going back to Midwest PPG, it was clear skies. It was nice, warm weather. And the day we get there, of course, I bring the rain, right? So it was rainy that morning and afternoon, but it had subsided. But I guess some turbulent skies kind of lingered. So we were debating whether we were going to go up. But then Brad took a test flight and said, you know, it's a little bumpy, but I think it's good enough for me to do. So we went for it.
Loiter out in the field to the east of the runway. Yep, you got it. Make sure you're looking in the direction you're going to turn to clear your corners. Add weight shift and then apply brake. Good.
If you go back and watch this is the first landing I've actually had where I didn't land on my feet. It's kind of embarrassing, but everything was fine. I was fine. The motor was fine. Of course, the grass was really wet because, like I was saying, it rained all day. So we have that issue. We also have the fact that if you look closely at the replay, the wind shifted, and it was something it was doing. Like I said, it was kind of turbulent up there. So the wind kind of shifted a handful of degrees right before I did my last brake pull. So of course, you know, that didn't help, but it was also pilot error on my part. When that wind shift did happen, I kind of forgot at that moment to keep leaning forward because I was kind of freaking out internally to correct the issue. And if you're not leaning forward in your straps, you're going to kind of land on your ass. So other than that, well, actually, even with that, any landing you can walk away from or laugh away from like I did without any damaged equipment is a good landing. So with that, we called it a night. Brad and I went back to our hotel and woke up early the next morning to do one more flight before we came back to Ohio. It's definitely pushing me like I gotta work towards it. See what this sounds like with the power off? I got some wind pushing toward me, that's for sure. It's really blowing. Here we go, coming in for a landing. Flared, move forward. Woo!
Chevy.
His launch and landing last night looked the same way. Did a couple of lean backs. He went to launch last night. Fucking perfect. Like, well, no shit. So, looked good.
Well, he's that was spot on landing. Perfect.
Yeah.
I thought he was leveling off a little too late. He leveled off like he's not scared of it at all. I would rather I want to do a foot drag level off.
Yeah, his inflations are awesome, so.
Pretty good.
Yep.
Well, that makes me feel good.
I told him I was nervous.
Oh,
I was like, man, it's been 2 years, I'm nervous.
Yeah.
Nope, he did just fine.
Plus a pretty spicy wing. Did he fly that wing last night?
Yep.
A brand new motor that he's scared to crash. I guess you're scared to crash all of them, but brand new ones more so.
I'm gonna help him grab this wet ass wing though.
Yeah, there were some pretty strong winds up there blowing me around. I almost had to let out my trim so I could go faster because I was afraid it was going to blow me backwards at one point. But obviously we made a really good landing. I made sure to really push into those chest straps so I'm leaning forward. I also really loosened them up before I did this flight just to make sure I could really get further ahead of it. But it all worked out, and I walked away from Midwest PPG with a big smile on my face. I'm glad to be back in that Sky saddle. And look, guys, I got to say this. Seriously, my deepest gratitude goes out to the Midwest PPG staff. Seriously, they went out of their way to help me out, to get me my equipment and get it to me fast, especially getting me refamiliarized with the sport after a 2-year hiatus. They were done teaching a class, and yet they came in on what was supposed to be their days off, to have a good time with me. And I really do appreciate Dave and Brad and JC. Like, if any of you watching are interested in the sport and would like to get up in the air someday, or even if you're just a little curious about it, you have to look into Midwest PPG, because not only are they kind-hearted, funny, really good people, but they're also very knowledgeable. They are wise beyond compare. When I was getting into the sport, I looked at a couple different instructors, but ultimately went with Midwest PPG, and I gotta say, it was probably the best decision I've ever made in my life. When I was faced with a dilemma of what do I do, I made the right call. I will put their link in the description below for any of you who want to be future PPG pilots. So now where do we go from here? Well, I'm still recovering from surgery. I only have a few more days left, but once that's finished, obviously I have this channel up and running. We're going to be doing some power paragliding content, and I want to get as much in as I can before winter hits. So make sure you subscribe to this new channel of mine, because all the CloudLicker content is going on the CloudLicker channel. And we also have a lot of other stuff coming as well. Godspeed.